Good morning, grade fives. Welcome to another English lesson. So today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently with English. And one of the things that I like to do quite often, and it's something that I also teach my boys that I teach, is the art of mindfulness. So for those of you that don't know, mindfulness is almost it's a form of focusing your thoughts, focusing your mind, and just coming to a calm, steady peace within yourself, especially if you're feeling anxious or stressed. And I thought today or this morning, I'm going to do very short mindfulness little lesson before we do our English to get you sort of focused and just calm and into the lesson. So what I need all of you to do, wherever you are just going to close your eyes and you are going to listen to the sound of my voice. So where you are, close your eyes, close it. Don't look, don't peep, just close your eyes. I'll promise I'll tell you when to open your eyes. All you're doing is listening to the sound of my voice. And as you are listening to my voice with your eyes closed, I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And in and out. And I want you to breathe on your own a couple of times, still in through your nose and out through your mouth. And every time you breathe, I want you to feel your chest filling up with air. And as you exhale, you are releasing all of that air, as well as any sort of negative feelings or anything that you feel is sitting on your shoulders. And with your breathing, you're just listening to the sound of my voice. Your eyes are still closed. Now, while you are still breathing on your own, I want you to become aware of your hearing. I want you to think about what you hear in your room, wherever you are. What sounds do you hear? Sit quietly and listen. Then I want you to really open up your ears and I want you to really extend your hearing to outside of the room that you're in. Do you hear people talking? Do you hear people walking around? Maybe you hear the sound of cars. Do you hear birds chirping? What do you hear? I want you to focus purely on the sound. Think about what you're hearing and all the while still continue to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just focus on your hearing. Right. And once you are feeling very relaxed, your body shouldn't be moving. It's just your eyes are closed and you're listening to me. You open up your eyes very gently. Take a deep breath in and out. So that was very short of mindfulness, but the goal of mindfulness, and I hope all of your eyes are open, is that you align your focus on what the situation is. So today we were just listening with our ears to the sounds in our environment. In our next English lesson, I'm going to present you with a scenario, and using your imagination, you're going to go on a little bit of a journey. Okay, so I hope that you are ready to start and that you're feeling refreshed and ready to start this day. It is a beautiful day where I am. The sun is shining. It is not as cold, so it is a lot warmer, but it is a really great day. And so the joke for today is, it's a silly joke. I won't lie, it's not my best work, but nevertheless, it's still hopefully going to bring a smile to your face. So the joke for today is, are you ready? What do we call someone with a flower on their face? You're probably thinking, why on earth would somebody have a flower on their face? What do we call somebody with a flower on their face? A tulip. The flower tulip and tulip. Okay, not my best joke, but joke nonetheless. Okay, right, boys and girls, remember that throughout this lesson, if you've got any questions, email them to grade5@worksheetcloud.com. and let's get going. So what are we doing today? We are going to be learning about degrees of comparison. Okay, I'm sure a lot of you have heard if I say that an object is small, but that object is smaller than that object, but that object is the smallest of all three, for example. And that is what we're going to be doing today. Degrees of comparison. So now degrees of comparison involve adjectives. And before I just dive into degrees of comparison, I want to just refresh your memory and your minds of what exactly is an adjective again. So remember, an adjective is classified as a describing word. They tell us more about the nouns, and I particularly love adjectives because you can use them for absolutely anything, and it also brings more life to the English language. So say, for example, I've got a glass of water. How would I describe this water? I wouldn't just say a glass. I can say the cool glass because there's condensation. I can say the long glass, the transparent glass. I'm describing this particular glass. I'm not just saying the glass. I'm bringing more life to the glass, which is our noun, and I'm describing our noun. Right. Now, there are two ways that you can use an adjective. You know that you can place it before the noun, the long glass, or you can place it after certain verbs. Okay. So you can place it after certain verbs. She ran fast. How did she ran? She ran fast. Okay, so I'm saying run, or past tense. Ran is a verb, and we are describing how she ran, and she ran quite fast. Okay, so that's just a refresh on and a recap on adjectives. Right, so now let's have a look at the two examples. So again, before the noun, I can have my adjective. Alice stood next to an enormous teacup. The word enormous is my adjective. Okay, another example, my Mad Hatter, where I have after the verb, like, seem, is, usually appear. Okay, so if I say the Mad Hatter is mad, I can also say is mad, where I'm describing the Mad Hatter. You can say the Mad Hatter is like something else. Or may seem mad, for example. So here is another adjective that I'm describing the Mad Hatter, but it is after the word is. Okay, right. So now, now that we've recapped adjectives, now we actually come to our degrees of comparison. Now today, if you don't already know before, you're going to be learning two new words. The first one being comparative and the second one being superlative. Okay, comparative and superlative. And these are the two types of adjectives that we're going to be going through today. So what exactly are comparative and superlative adjectives? So the first one is our comparative adjectives. When we are using an adjective to compare only one thing to another. So if I say it is warmer today than yesterday, I'm only comparing today and yesterday, the only 2 days. I'm not comparing this whole week. Okay. So I'm using the word, today it was warm, but yesterday was warmer than today, for example. Okay. So when I talk about comparative adjectives, I'm only comparing two different aspects, only two, right? If I have a superlative adjective, now this is when we compare more than two things. So today is the warmest day of the entire week. Okay, so do you see we have today is warm, yesterday was warmer, but say, for example, Saturday was the warmest day over the past 2 weeks or something like that. Warm, warmer, warmest. Warm is our adjective. Our comparative adjective is warmer because I'm comparing only 2 days. And if I'm comparing one day compared to an entire series of days, I then say warmest, right? So one of the rules with comparative and superlative adjectives is the prefixes, or should I say the suffixes that we add to the words, or sometimes we actually add an additional word before that actual adjective. Right, so what do I mean by that? So let's read. It says, with comparisons to a higher degree, we add ist and and sometimes more or most before the word. So, for example, you can see that if I start, if I talk about going to a higher degree and I talk about something getting bigger or a greater amount, then I add or ist. So if I, with our previous example of warm, today is warm, tomorrow is warmer. Okay, so you see it's getting more. The next day is warmest, for example. Okay, it's the most. So we go from something that is high, then we go higher to the actual highest, right? Okay, so we start with something big and eventually we go down. And then sometimes, and we'll look at an example later on, where certain words, and this is an exception. Remember that in the English language, we do have exceptions. In certain exceptions, we don't add ist and we actually put the word more or most before the adjective. And those are a few of our exceptions. Then if we are having comparisons to a lower degree, so we're starting with something high, but then we sit and go a little bit lower, we have high, for example, it is less high than it was over there. It is the least high than what it was. Okay, so sometimes we can also add less and least to compare our words. Right, so let's have a look at some examples. I can have a fat little cat, and that is our adjective. I then have another cat that is fatter than that cat. Okay, so he's fatter, and this fatter is our comparative adjective. Then I've got the fattest cat, which is our superlative adjective. Let's look at the next example. I can have an ice cream that is cold, our adjective. I can have an ice cube that is colder than the ice cream, comparative, because I'm only comparing the two. Then my superlative adjective, it would be the coldest to sit inside an igloo. Okay, right. I can have an object that is small, an object that is smaller, and finally the smallest. Good. Okay. I can have something that is big. Right. Now my comparative adjective is bigger. But do you see I've had to add an extra G? So instead of just the ER, we have to add a G. So certain words we do have to add an extra letter. It all depends on the word, it all depends on the adjective, and then the comparative and the superlative adjective. So it is important, again, I emphasize every lesson, spelling is so important. Okay, so I just wanted to show you there. And then if I have a massive animal, it would be the biggest, a superlative adjective. Okay, now here we come to a situation where you can do very well in a subject and we can say, oh, you did good. Okay, or we would say you did well, but we can say good as our adjective. But now you won't, the word gooder is not a word. Okay, we do not say gooder. Instead, we say you've done better. So you did good there. Okay, you've done better, which is comparing, our comparative adjective. But if I say you've done the best, good, better, best. So this is, remember our exceptions. This is our one exception in English language when we talk about degrees of comparison. This one you have to learn. You have to know. When we compare the word good as an adjective, it is not gooder and it's not the goodest. That is incorrect. It's not correct in saying that in English. We say good, better, or the best. Right. Another example, which is an exception. Okay. I can say something is bad. Okay. 40% is bad. 20% is worse. So a word of badder and the baddest. It doesn't work. It's incorrect. And so again, this is another one that you have to learn. You will continuously see examples of these coming up. And it's just something that you have to learn. So if our adjective is bad, whenever you see bad and you're comparing something else to that being bad, you say, oh, that is bad, but this is worse. And oh my goodness, 0% is the absolute worst. Okay, so bad, worse, worst. Adjective, comparative adjective, superlative adjective. Okay, bad, worse, worst. Right. So now, what if the adjective has more than 2 syllables? Remember, a syllable is like a sound in a word. So if I say the word glass, okay, glass, and I always teach it with claps. So clap, glass. 1 clap, 1 syllable. If I say the word laptop, laptop, 2 syllables, there's 2 counts. Okay. If I have the word phone, phone, dog, dog, pretty easy. If I say petrol, petrol, okay, 2 counts. So that is a syllable. So if an adjective has more than 2 syllables, let's have a look at what happens. So here you can see we've got 3 different words. Interesting, elegant, miserable. Interesting, quite a few there. Elegant, 3. Miserable. Okay, there's more than 2 syllables. So what are the words? What happens to the words? Now this is where we have more and most. Okay, so for example, Harry Potter is more interesting than Lord of the Rings. Right? So remember earlier when I said you've got more and most, that also comes with words from a higher sort of level. It's the same over here, but only if the adjective has got more than 2 syllables, that's when we're going to put the words more first as our comparative, and most is going to be our superlative. So Natalie Portman looked the most elegant at the Oscars. Elegant is our word. Our adjective over here. Most is our superlative adjective. Okay. And another example, the weather in England is more miserable than in South Africa. So maybe some of you agree with me or disagree with me with that statement. It's very cold in winter for quite a few months of the year. South Africa, we are so blessed to have the most beautiful weather with 4 seasons. And so yes, that was my little sentence. So please remember, when do we use more and most in front of our adjective? When the adjective has got more than 2 syllables. Okay, good. Remember that. Okay. If it is an adjective with 2 or less, then we use and est. Okay, remember. Right. So let's practice an activity together. So I am going to give you the adjective. It's going to be in brackets, and then you need to correctly put it in the comparative form. So my old bedroom is smaller than my current one. Okay, I'm going to give you the sentences. You're going to pause the video. You're going to write the correct word for each one, and then I'll give you the answers. Okay, so do you see how it doesn't sound right? My old bedroom is smaller than my current one. Okay, I'm comparing my 2 rooms. His spelling is accurate than mine. Remember, accurate. The new building was good than the old one. Okay, do you see how that doesn't make sense? And please don't write gooder. Right, so that is firstly with comparative form. Now, I'm going to give you some sentences with the correct superlative form. That was the exciting match I've ever watched. Okay, what is the superlative form of that? Remember, we are comparing one match to all the matches I have watched. The gap was the narrow she had ever crawled through. And lastly, greasy food is the bad meal for you. Okay, please do not say baddest. Remember my rules. Okay, are you ready for the answers? Now it's your turn to be the teacher. So pick up your red pen and get ready to tick. Let's go. Okay, so my old bedroom is, oh, did I forget smallest? Should be the smallest than my current one. So smallest is my correct form. His spelling is more accurate. So it's not accuratist. No such thing. It is more accurate than mine. The new building was better than the old one. Remember, not good, better. Then the superlative answers, that was the most exciting. Remember, exciting. There's 3 syllables, so we would put most before that adjective. The gap was the narrowest she had ever crawled through. Fish and chips is the worst meal for you. Okay, right. So worst is the word over there. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So, boys and girls, just to recap, degrees of comparison involve comparing or using adjectives to compare certain nouns, right? Now, depending on what we're comparing is dependent on the adjective that we are using. So we can either use an adjective to describe a noun, or if we are comparing two things, only two, we can use a comparative adjective. Remember that if and we add usually er to that adjective, unless that adjective has got more than 2 syllables, where then we would put more before that word, before the adjective. If we are looking at a word in a superlative form, if we're comparing one thing to many things, we would then write est on that, add est to that adjective. And if that adjective has got more than 2 syllables, exciting, we would add the word most before that adjective. Okay, I know that there's a lot to go through, but practice the activity that I've attached to this lesson. Remember, practice makes perfect. And remember also, if you want to practice your own mindfulness today at any stage, whenever you're feeling anxious about staying at home, in lockdown, or with anything, close your eyes, focus on your breathing, listen to the sounds around you, and let your imagination just take you to a world. But we will do more mindfulness in our next lesson. Right, from me, Miss Kun, boys and girls, have a wonderful day. Hakuna Matata, and be kind to one another. Bye.